GM and Ferrari are collabing, and Red Bull are going to be furious. Want to know why? Well, stick around and let's find out. The announcement following the Las Vegas Grand Prix that the sport will be welcoming an 11th team to the traveling circus has proven to be, as expected, a universally popular opinion. It turns out that getting rid of a yelling toddler does, in fact, help a party run smoother. However, Michael Andretti may have to endure one last slap in the face on his way out of the door. The man heralded the brand new entry in every way possible, from making enough noise to get congressional threats thrown in the direction of the FOM and Liberty, to expanding the Andretti Racing Empire's headquarters to accommodate a brand new, state-of-the-art Formula One facility. The sudden departure of Michael Andretti on the eve of the team that he poured blood, sweat, and tears into finally getting accepted into Formula One seemed suspect, as the ex-CEO and chairman of Andretti Global seemingly fell at the final hurdle. The story that has been widely pushed by all parties is that Michael merely wished to spend more time with his family, with young twins and grandchildren being the namesake's focus moving forward. However, the real reason is plain to see. After dragging his team all the way up the mountain to the gates of the promised land, Michael Andretti had to step aside, having trodden on too many toes on his way up to the summit. He was able to come to an agreement with now CEO Dan Harris, and has been making many public showings of his support to the team moving forward. However, it's hard to see Andretti's exit as anything other than a condition of his team's acceptance. And don't get it twisted, GM Cadillac is the team that Andretti built. All the fluff about great American brands has done the exact thing that America is most infamous for, abandoning the people whose backs built them up in favor of pedestaling the shiny and squeaky all-American hero who is doing everything they can for their country. GM Cadillac is Andretti Global's F1 team, just with every identifiable signifier that Andretti was ever there being ripped away. However, if that was the case, someone forgot to tell Ferrari. The announcement of their multi-year engine deal with the brand new 11th team was credited to WRE Pallone, and it wasn't GM or Cadillac. Ferrari announced a multi-year agreement starting from 2026 with Andretti Formula Racing LLC regarding the supply of power unit and gearbox to the racing team led by DWG, Global and General Motors, subject to Andretti Formula Racing LLC, receiving written confirmation from the FIA F1 that its entry to the 2026 FIA Formula One Championship has been accepted and approved. The fact that Andretti Global is the recipient of the engine and gearbox deal with Ferrari must be a real kick in the mouth for Michael Andretti, seeing as the main claim by Liberty and FOM for rejecting Andretti Motorsport in the first place was that they would not be competitive enough and would not add anything substantial to the sport by being there. Now it appears the real reason has been confirmed, as the very team that was rejected has now been granted backing from an OEM, which has so often been in the top 2 fastest and most reliable engine packages. The OEM that is being brought in, which was promised with Andretti's original entry attempt, will not be available until the back end of the decade. However, while making this video, there has been a shock development as Ferrari has altered its press release. The Maranello-based team has made alterations to their original press release, with the key omission being one name, Andretti. The attempt to scour the family name off of the announcement is yet another kick in the mouth, with the operation now being referred to as General Motors and DWG Global, with the team name officially being Cadillac F1. So it would appear that after all, the removal of the man wasn't enough. The name which built the team from the ground also had to go. The bittersweet thing for Michael, at least, will be his father's involvement, with the 1978 world champion Mario Andretti continuing on as a non-executive board member and advisor. The aim of his involvement seems to be to uphold the ethos and values of the team, with him saying, "I'll help where I can." a non-executive role with the team, not involved in day-to-day operations because I don't want a job, but offering advice, inspiration, and friendship wherever I can. A lot of pieces have been falling into place for the team, with the ex-Manor and Marussia team, Principal Graham Loudon being announced as the GM team principal for 2026 and beyond late last week. Loudon put out a fluffy statement regarding Ferrari's support to the American team, but the team principal who gave the most insight into the deal was Ferrari's team principal, Frederick Vasseur, who emphasized just how this deal can be beneficial for all parties involved. It's great to see the commitment of another American team backed by one of the most highly respected marques in the motor industry at a time when Formula One is increasing in popularity in the United States. We are delighted, therefore, that we will be supplying the team with our power unit and gearbox as the basis of this technical collaboration. It means we will continue to have 2 customer teams in the championship, with all the benefits this brings in terms of technical development to Ferrari. That does bring up an interesting point. The loss of Sauber halved the amount of external R&D that Ferrari can rely on, bringing them to a disadvantage compared to their main OEM rival in the sport, Mercedes. With Mercedes having 2 teams under partnership agreements that are on an upward trajectory, McLaren seizing the constructors as an engine customer for the first time since Brawn GP's shock 2009 season, and Williams having an exciting driver partnership and tools to move upwards in the championship from next year onwards, Ferrari's customers this season, namely Haas and Sauber, pale in comparison. Mercedes has a greater pool of quality data to chew through. Cadillac entering the fray adds an unknown entity to the equation. However, all signs point toward them being a better quality and better run outfit than the dismal Sauber, who took 7 races to remember how to change tyres in under a minute this year. Just because those involved in the engine deal are happy doesn't mean everyone else is. There's one team in particular which will likely be quite miffed at the news that Cadillac and GM are getting Ferrari support, and that is Red Bull. Now, you may be thinking, how on earth are Red Bull involved in all of this? It's actually due to quite an interesting denial they faced last year. Red Bull and their Ford-backed Red Bull Powertrains program are being seen as inheriting elements from the previous Honda engine program due to the long, slow goodbye between the 2 parties. Red Bull Powertrains have already been active, using the shell of Honda's old program to launch their own B engines for themselves and their sister team, RB, or whatever they will be called next year. However, Red Bull Powertrains have insisted that their split with Honda is absolute in every sense of the word, no matter how drawn out, with the key insistence being that they are not at all benefiting from Honda's intellectual property. The key reason they are doing this is because new OEM providers and engine manufacturers are guaranteed additional testing time in their first seasons, something which could prove essential for a new engine program attempting to keep up with the rest of the field at the dawn of new regulations. Red Bull was subsequently denied this extra time, as the separation from Honda and their previous efforts as an engine supplier, before they decided to change their mind about leaving the sport yet again, was not deemed thorough enough, with remnants of the IP and approach still visible to the FIA. GM, however, perhaps due to having no prior running as a team with a customer engine, has been approved as a bona fide brand new engine manufacturer, despite the 2 to 4 years of experience their team will appropriate from running the previously successful and massively experienced Ferrari engines. The oldest team in the sport, with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, track records in regard to their engine program, Ferrari, may certainly provide credible experience and data to reflect on, something Red Bull will now argue as being integral to Ferrari's IP. Now, we personally see a massive difference between the 2 parties. The only real similarity is that both will be utilizing American powerhouses in the near future, and neither knows how to coherently name a team or stick to it. Andretti GMAC is a brand new entry using brand new facilities. Red Bull adopted their testing beds, facilities, and experience from their prior championship-winning partnership with Honda. However, just because everyone else can see this plainly doesn't mean Red Bull won't kick up a fuss. So, be ready to see some Horner histrionics in the media about how unfair their engine program is being treated. If Red Bull and their sister team end up at the back of the field come the new regulations and GM catapults past them, prepare yourself for some grade A whining.